Good evening, everyone, and perhaps even a good morning or good afternoon from wherever you are. Welcome once again to another one of our podcasts, The Three Wise Potatoes. Um, I hope everyone has been pretty awesome since our last cast. Today we have with us again Prash and Dean. How are both of you this evening?
Hello.
Good,
Good. How are you guys?
I'm
good,
quite
good.
well, everything considered.
Uh, it's been a busy week.
It's good. Why everything considered? You're going through the motions there, Captain.
Yeah,
Not emotions, but just as you two would know, just lot going on. I would say,
Stuffs.
mm,
yeah. But obviously moving through it. So yeah,
well, that's good.
As we do.
exactly. I mean, even today's topic is a discussion on movement and discussion on I think overcoming challenges and rising from things. So
Nice.
yeah. So what's been happening in everyone's lives? All good.
Yeah, all good.
Good.
Busy with the life things. Job's getting a bit hectic now, and it's just lots of work stuff happening. Most of the time, it's just work, then like doing some stuff in the evening, relaxing as much as I can. But weekends are just super busy. And you guys?
When do you get the downtime then?
Ich, honestly, nowadays it's basically a couple of hours in the evening, really. It's not too
And
much,
then what
but
At
is
some
what
point,
is
it's not going to be sustainable.
it's okay. I find that the stuff on the weekend sometimes can be replenishing, like
Okay, that's fine.
especially when we do something, and then going out or doing something is it's a bit replenishing. But also, I try to find like a couple of hours here and there, even on weekends, like a sleep in a bit late on a Saturday or a Sunday, and then chill in the evening on one of the days. And then football's back, so we get to watch some football as well. So it's not too bad. You guys?
I
True.
think
I'm a big fan of sleeping in.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, that's a good one. That's a good one as well. I think this week I learned something from a colleague of mine. So
Okay.
she was in Japan because we have offices there as well,
Okay.
and during the day, at a particular time, at any time really, the entire country sounds like this bell or the alarm or something like that. And what you have to do is get up or stop from whatever you're doing, get up off of your chair, and just like shake about and just like shake it off. Stealing Taylor Swift's line there, and I think what they're trying to do is just trying to get you to less stressed, more active,
Mm.
break any sort of cycle that you currently have going in your life right now, and just break whatever's happening at that moment.
Mm.
And then after that, they just go back to whatever it is, whatever task they were doing. And this is the entire country does this at that particular time, whether you're at work, whether you're at school or home. I think it's just something different that we just need something to learn as well, where we just take time
Mm.
for ourselves at any point during the day just to shake it off.
I quite
Some,
like that idea.
Yeah. Like tension release.
something,
Mm.
yeah, exactly.
It's pretty
Every
cool.
now and then you do need some sort of break.
Yeah, for sure.
True. Very true.
Okay, well,
You,
so
Dino?
today's topic,
Pardon?
yeah.
You?
Oh, work has just been a lot to deal with lately. It's eating me alive. Sometimes it feels, but we get there. Gonna basically just rest and recuperate this weekend, and then go back at it come
Nice.
Monday.
Do you dread those
Yeah.
Mondays?
No, it's more like if I haven't done enough on the weekend to sort of like center myself and recover and that kind of thing, then I feel a bit sluggish. But I don't dread the Monday.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I was just kind of checking if it's whether you look forward to the weekends or whether you look forward to the Mondays as well.
I definitely look forward to the weekends. I'm not so sure. Like sometimes I look forward to the Mondays, and sometimes I'm like, oh, it's Monday. I'm not dreading it, but at the same time, I'm not like wildly excited about it either.
Sure. Okay.
Right.
Okay. And I find that I think a fair amount of people as well might have that same sentiment.
Yeah.
Where like some days it'll be awesome, and some days it won't be. I mean, peaks and troughs exist. We've talked about this in a lot of other podcasts as well.
Yeah.
At length. Well, thanks for sharing what your weeks have been like. I really do hope it grows and gets better. You get better at handling it as time goes by. So today's topic is called My Rise, My Roar. I know in the past we've talked about different stages of your life, different trials and tribulations, and this time I think I want to focus on when you're at a particular point. So you've obviously fallen, you've failed at something, and now you're at the point of bottom. Or you're challenged and you're growing. What's the first few things that you need to do to initiate any sort of recovery from that bottom point?
Can you define recovery then?
Well, let's just say you're at your lowest point, and obviously it's the trough, the lowest most point, and now you're trying to get back up to stability or
okay. So
yeah.
when you say recovery, you mean make up ground, not sort of recover your energy or strength.
No. Yeah, sorry. Just recover from.
Because I mean, when you hit that bottom,
Yeah.
you you kind of need to like heal or / recover in a mental or physical or an emotional way before you can make up ground again. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so like it's interesting that your choice of words there was recovery, because before you can make up or recover the ground you've lost, you have to recover the energy and the strain you've just taken. Because when you bottom out, it hits you emotionally. Like when you have to face that you're at the bottom now and you have to climb back up again, it's a heavy emotional sort of state to be in. So for me, I would say like first you gotta make sure that you're okay before you try and start climbing again.
And what sort of, you mentioned emotions, so what sort of emotions do you think, from your experience, I think we've all at some point been at bottoms here, what sort of emotions did you feel?
It's a broad range, but like the big ones are, sometimes you can feel depression, and that's a pretty bad one to feel. Despair, loss, despondency, like some heavy, like when I say heavy emotions, that's what I mean. Like I don't want to try anymore, I want to give up kind of emotions. That I have nothing left. I don't really know how to continue. The feeling of being completely lost. Like that emptiness of what you tried for that you failed at, and feeling like a failure is, I've felt it. I'm sure someone listening is probably going to resonate with that statement when you've tried and you failed and you bottom out and you're just like, okay, I thought this was going to work. I had bought into it, committed to it. I envisioned myself in there. We've done the visualization and all that kind of stuff. I saw myself in this, and I'd invested in that future where this worked out. And then to know that future is something that you won't have or not have immediately, it's heavy. Those are the emotions that you feel. Well, I felt anyway at that time.
Did you feel any different, Kuch? I have a follow-up question, Dean, but did you feel in the same things as well?
No, a lot of the stuff that Dean is saying is like pretty on point, right? You have that feeling of hopelessness and like what did I do wrong? Where did I go wrong? And like how did it end up like this? And then sometimes it's just one thing compounding on top of the next, and then compounding on top of the next, and wherever you turn, everything is going wrong, and it's not a good place to be in.
You hit rock bottom and you start digging.
when you start digging at rock bottom, that's when hard mode looks easy. Um, but it's a place where um, you know you also don't even like when I was there once. I think you don't even want to talk to people because you sort of need to internalize it all first and then try to understand what is going on because it's also a thing of while it's happening to you, a lot of stuff is happening externally and it's coming from external, right? And you just don't know how to deal, um, so it's one of those things that makes you just feel hopeless and completely alone. And yeah, it's terrible. It's a terrible place to be in. But what I would say is that in that time, in that period, if you can advise people, the best thing in my mind is to actually find someone that you can confide in and speak to them about where you are, even if they're not, and also try to ask them not to give you advice straight away, but just to understand what it is that you're going through. Not from an advice point of view, but a mirroring point of view, because you also need to get it out, right? And the minute you get it out, that's when things start turning around. Um, but yeah, that's basically. I think Dean also summed up the major key points of like how and what that situation feels like.
So, I mean, you'll describe the emotions, and I know Prashi just mentioned a few steps to kind of begin that journey upward again. Let's just say, right, onto that new path. Can you think of anything else that can, I guess, push you out of that hopelessness and the variety of feelings that you have? Like, what's that one thing? If you think back, even in your own experiences, what's the one thing that kickstarted that journey for either of you? Well, okay. So, I mean, from my
Do you
experience,
want me to go?
no,
Oh yeah, carry on.
No, go for it, Dean.
Well, I think Yash wants to go. Do you want to go?
Okay,
okay,
yeah.
cool. I guess from my experience, it was a finality of realizing that I didn't want to feel this way anymore. It was a point of like, I'm just really tired of this now. And it was a point as well that I realized that it was me that was keeping myself there as well. So yes, I had a bazillion failures and it was horrible, like all of you have described now, the feelings. But it was a choice that at this point I said to myself, enough is enough. I have made a conscious decision to now reach that inflection point to now move back upward. So for me, it was realization that I needed to stop at this point and start full on recovery now. And then that's when I made that upward journey again. So that's what it was for me. Just a realization of enough is enough. Do you know?
The worst ones that I've been through took a slightly different approach here because I mean it felt terrible and I was very like overwhelmed by it. Especially not the thing that happened. It was more the emotions that happened after the thing, right? Like you suffer something and then you torture yourself afterwards for days, weeks, months, even after that with the way you remember the event, right? That's what the trauma is.
Yeah.
And for me, like, I kept wondering how much worse can this get, and I kept avoiding the feelings, and then I decided to confront the feelings in like a very head-on fashion. Like, I decided I'm not going to try and avoid these anymore. I'm just going to feel everything. And I'm going to see how deep the pit goes. And once I hit the bottom, like, this was the worst it felt. This can't get any worse. At that point, something in my brain clicked going, okay, so if this is how deep it'll go, this is the way the limit is. Now you understand where the parameters are or the limits are. and there's a certain safety in that. I'm not suggesting people do this, by the way. It is not a healthy means, but it was just how I understood what I was going through. It was my process. And once I understood where those limits were, I was able to then move out of them.
So I actually kind of think what you both did, is what you have to do, right? You like similar to Yash, the way you explained it to me, or the way I understood it was Yash noticed that he was in that state and he's like, no more, right? He may not have fully explored how far it could go, but I think you also, if I want to say it this way, you can get to the bottom of a trench and you can keep digging, right? And you dug a little bit to find out how far it would go before it became self-harmful, right? And then you decided that that's the limit for me, and that's it. Whereas Yash will automatically notice in a different way, right, that it's now becoming self-harmful, and then he'll think. Whereas you like to explore a little bit because the feeling, I think it comes from a little bit of calmness and tranquility, whereas you know you're in the state, but you are okay with being there as long as it benefits you learning something. All right.
Yeah.
And yeah, the way you guys put it, I think it was similar for me. I mean, you sit there and you sort of wallow until you realize you're not gaining anything from it, you know, and it's sort of becomes something where you're like, okay, this is becoming a tired story now, and that's when you kind of snap out of it. But I think one of the major factors is time. Um, when you're in that situation, you kind of need to give time to that situation because you sort of need to learn how to get tired of the situation that you're in. Otherwise, you're not going to pull yourself out. And if you have the strength to pull yourself out, that's another thing. But um, when you're in that situation, you kind of got to give it the time for yourself to experience what's going on. And like you said, I think what you said was so important was the emotions of what you're feeling after what happens. So something happens and then you start feeling the emotions. And some of those emotions are internal and some of those emotions are from external, right? So some are like, this is what's happened to me and this is why I feel this way. But some are like, why did this happen to me? And then your own internal emotions start building on what has happened, right? And they sort of magnify it in a way. And I think that sort of process kind of needs to happen just a little bit because you get a lot of people that don't pile it on. Actually, you get very few people that don't pile it on, right? Most people pile it on. And those people are very, very they self, no, I don't want to say self-centered, but centered selves, you know, and they know that there's a point where I don't need to beat myself up for something. And there's very few people like that. But like the most people will be like, oh my God, that's happening to me. And I feel so much worse. And, you know, and then they'll act out and whatever it is. But it's all that stuff, you need to sort of go through that a little bit. I feel because it's your own body's and your own brain's way of saying, this is the problem, this is the way it's going. How do I deal with this to come out of it? You know, and then when it recognizes that something is wrong and focuses on that thing, that's when either it gets worse enough for the body to recognize I'm in pain, or it gets worse enough to the point where the body says, I don't want this anymore.
That's also true, and so I'll touch on a few things that you mentioned as well. I know you both reminded me at some point in the recent months as well to be soft or kind to myself as well, and not fully keep the blame on as well. And then you also kind of touched on just that point after which if I look back, as also I faulted on in the past as well. But I guess that with each one, we kind of get better um, at dealing with that, and kind of moving forward through the troughs. One of my next questions as well is, you know, at every encounter, at your every next trough, does it become easier? Does it stay the same level, or does it get harder? In your opinions, like the next time you encounter a failure, that's what I mean.
I think you can be better equipped to deal with a failure, but that doesn't mean it's any easier.
Yeah.
Because the trough can be deeper or a lot sharper, or filled with rubble, and that you encounter that, like metaphorically speaking, obviously. Each trough tends to get harder to deal with, but that's kind of why the troughs before it were easier, and you were able to learn from them. That's kind of part of life's design, right? You learn, and then you move, and then there's a bigger challenge, and you have to use what you've been equipped with thus far to overcome that challenge.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say any of it's gotten easier. I've just become more equipped.
I would say it depends on if it's the same problem.
Yeah, every challenge would be
Like
probably different, right?
every challenge, like I 100% agree with Dean. It doesn't become easier. You can become more equipped to deal with it. But if it's the same problem that's happening again and
Yeah.
again, then it's essentially a thing of lesson wasn't learned the first time.
Yeah.
But as Dean says, most of the time you don't really suffer the same problem, because if you've seen a problem, you don't really go back to it, right?
We hope not.
And the
Yeah.
troughs can be in different areas. Like, say for example, one is in your love life, and then another one is in your finances, and then another one is in your like family life, right? And each one of those things is different. Like, say for example, in your job, right? You had a problem, right? And it was an issue, and you hit rock bottom, and you needed to change jobs, or you needed to work harder to get out of it. Then you have a different area where you have a financial issue, and you like hit rock bottom, and like you can't pay for like your car and your lifestyle and your house and whatever it is. Those are so completely differently draining that um, the mechanisms to deal with them are completely different, and
Yeah.
it then becomes completely different trough,
I think I love that you mentioned mechanisms, because that leads me on to one of the next points as well. What sort of mindset do you need to have in order to kind of sustain this new pathway that you're trying to build for yourself? Because we all have internal conversations with ourselves, right? Like all of you mentioned in that, from that first question, it's like this negative talk. I'm not good enough. In my opinion, if I had to answer the question first, it's you can't stay positive all the time. You are going to have that negative conversation with yourself. But for me, it's having that strength, knowing that the negative conversation is up to you to shut down, and tell yourself that this is the path that I want to build for myself, and this is where I'm going, and the point that I'm getting to is a positive and a hopeful one. So that's the sort of mindset that I would have. I would engage with the negative conversation, and then still beat it down by saying, okay, this is where I'm going. This is why what you're saying to me is untrue, and I'll move forward that way. So it's like a shut down any negative in my mind mindset, from what I have done in the past. But how would you challenge or determine or define what mindset you'd have?
Personally, I don't think I could have that mindset. I don't know about Dean, but I can't just remove any negative thought. I kind of move with it because the negative thought is telling me something, and then I try to understand what it's doing because a negative thought is coming from somewhere. So for me, it's more about listening to that negative thought and then correcting it. Because the next time it comes up, then it's a corrected problem, and then I see things differently. I could never remove negative thoughts completely because I'm not wired that way, you know. And to a degree, it's self-learned wiring, but like I've just never done that sort of wiring. I've never done the wiring to say, listen, this is a negative thought. I'm not going to address it, right? Or not to say not you're not going to address it. You know how to what's the word? Squash it, right? And in a way to say, or not belittle it, and that I don't know. I'm more one of those people that will just go, okay, this is the situation. I'm more of a solution orientated based person. So what is the best way to get out of this is the first question that I would ask, and then I would start not building steps but praying a lot that the solution would come to me quickly, and then after it doesn't come to me quickly, then I'd start making small steps to solve the problem.
I'm quite similar to that, in that I don't think I've got the capacity to banish the negative thoughts or to suppress them the way Yash does. Like, it takes a very strong mindset to be able to do that. Not to say I don't have a strong mindset, I can't do what he does. For me, it's very similar to what you do, Guj, in that if the negative thoughts come up, I like to see where they're coming from. And sometimes it's not a case of just correct them or not. It's more a case of what is the degree of validity to the negative thought. Because all thoughts have to come from somewhere, right? So if I feel like I'm not good enough, where's that coming from? If I failed at something, did I fail because I wasn't good enough, or did I fail because the test was subjective? And if the test was subjective, was my effort something I was happy with? And if that is the case, then the negative thought is corrected there and then. However, if I failed because I was below standard or I was not good enough, that's a harder conversation, because then I have to admit to myself, actually, you failed because you deserve to fail. And your corrective action is not to ignore this negative thought, but the negative thought is telling you that if you want to progress along this route that you are adamant to progress along, because I want this thing, if I want to succeed, then what I need to do is I need to address my shortcomings. This is a very humbling set of thinking. It does not feel fantastic. I must be honest, because it makes you feel super cock. But when you establish what you need to develop in yourself, and then you go ahead and develop that thing, I found that it has helped going forward. So the negative thought for me is always, okay, where are you coming from and how valid are you? And usually there's some degree of validity. Maybe it's 5%, maybe it's 95%. If it's 95%, then I got a lot of work to do. If it's 5%, sometimes the work is negligible and maybe I won't do anything. But it's really just a case of establishing its validity.
So you look at yourself in the situation and then deal with it as it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, asking why, I think, is a constructive way of doing it as well. Like you engaging with that with the talk, and it's like, okay, trying to find the root cause of it, right? And applying logic as well to reason.
Logic and also a little bit of honesty with yourself, and that's hard, because if you have to honestly look at yourself in the mirror and be like, okay, that was a bit cock, I wasn't good enough. That's not a fun conversation. It is not good for your confidence. However, if you don't if you take your ego out of the equation, that really does help a lot, because then it's a case of, okay, I was cock, but I can get better.
Yes.
So now I'm gonna go get better.
That's actually quite hard to do.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what.
Like I said, very humbling.
Like I failed. I failed most recently 2 weeks ago publicly, in front of people, and when I got back home, I felt really, really, really horrible. But I accepted, like Dean said, that like the validity of the internal conversation was it was 100%. I failed right in front of people, and yes, it felt terrible. And I said to myself, yes, okay, cool. It was fully my responsibility for failing, and I'll accept that I failed, but I won't let that failure at all define me going forward, and I will look to get better. So yes, whilst I did feel bad for that period, the next day I think I got back up and carried on. So I just wanted to be open about that. That 100% what Dean is saying. You can apply it and you can reflect on it. But I was really kind to myself and I accepted the fact that I failed. And after I accepted it, having accepted it, everything was okay again. I reached a place of calm afterward.
I'm proud of you, man.
It like Dean says, it was a humbling experience. I think it's we need to change the conversation around what falling is in the first place. It's not there to destroy you realistically. It's there to create. We got to get like an attitude that the pain can lead to power. So that's kind of something we need to wrap our heads around as well. Like pain is not there for nothing. It's there for a purpose. And I know, Crush, you mentioned... Yeah. No, go ahead.
No.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I was going to ask a question. Do you think that it would help to remove the ego from the situation if you used a person as a sounding board? Because, when you're in that situation, you're like... Ego plays a huge part because you're alone and all of it is mental thoughts, right? But if you use someone as a sounding board, you sort of have to remove the ego because otherwise you just sound, I don't know, maybe it's based on the personality type that's speaking.
Sure.
But
I think it depends on how much trust you have in the person.
The other
and
person,
how open
yeah.
you could be. Yeah, because your ego can get in the way just as easily with another person.
Yeah, that's true.
Like someone like one of you guys will be easily pick up on bullshit, right? That anyone that I would say to you. Yeah, so like you have to kind of get the right person that you can feel comfortable enough to be vulnerable with as well. I think that's key. You never want to show your vulnerability to just anyone. There's a select few people that even I show it to, and that's two of you. But it's difficult to just open up to just any random person.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't do it with just anybody. There's maybe just a handful of people that I'll allow to see me in that state. That includes the two of you. Because there's years of trust built there, and also you could see through the bullshit very quickly. So
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think I had a place of ego. I think for me it was I think after when I had that conversation with myself, I said, okay, it was nice to get knocked down a notch. Because I can't just keep winning. That's not how you learn. We don't learn through winning, we learn through failure.
Yeah.
So that's how I accepted it. I said, and that's how I accepted it. I failed for a reason.
Yeah.
So now I just need to learn.
Yeah. Well, the main reason I asked the question about ego is because I think Dean said it. He said, that ego plays a huge part. And I'm like, what is the easiest way to remove it from the equation? Because that's also a way of getting to the turnaround faster.
Well, if I can put it to you this way, right? When it comes to a failure of any kind, the ego is the place that the pain is stored.
Yeah.
or it's the place where all the pain comes from.
Mm.
If I look at people that have removed ego from their failures to as much as it is possible, they suffer very little, and they're able to get to the lesson in that so much quicker.
Yeah.
And it's because the ego plays such a small role in it.
Mm. Which is
It's
why I
also
was
true. I
asking,
mean,
because yeah.
yeah. I mean, you'll also have like a level of pride that you have within yourself, level of self-inflated importances, and other things
Yeah, what do
as
you
well.
tie your identity to?
Yeah,
Mm.
like
Because if your identity is compromised by that failure, that is a very difficult place to be.
oh yes,
Like I
I'd
feel
agree.
I feel a lot of compassion for people like that, because like when you are questioning your whole identity based on a failure, that is a dark space.
Mm.
And I'm very sorry if any of you are going through that,
Yeah,
listeners. And like, be kind to yourself and work through it and get out of that place as quickly as possible. And when I say that place, I don't mean the place of failure. I mean the place of tying your identity to wins.
to something, yeah,
Mm.
I definitely agree with that. I know Prash, you mentioned prayer early on, like really early on just now,
Oh no,
but
that was actually a part of a joke, because like sometimes you just have to
oh
pray and hope that
Exchange
things
of.
get better. But yeah.
well
Yep.
well
It is in God's hands.
well my next question is, what is the driving force? What is that driving force that keeps you going? What is that thing that sustains that path? Is it faith? Is it trust? Is it hope? What is it that moves you forward, that keeps the burning, that keeps you from regressing?
I have an answer, but it's not a normal answer. And I think
Those
it's
are the best kind.
one of the things that we discussed in one of the first podcasts. There's there's something inside me that I view as the core of my being, right? And you could say, listen, the easiest way I put it when I was studying was, um, inside you there's a flame, right? And that flame always burns, but it can burn lower or it can burn bigger, or brighter or larger, or I don't know what's the difference between low and high. You can't have a high. You can have a high flame, right?
Yeah.
So I believe that every person has that within them, right? And it's the core of their being. It's there. It's who they are. The color of it is the color of their person, you know. And that doesn't change. Nobody can affect that thing. Nobody can touch it. It's only you that has the control of how strong it is or whatever it is. So no matter what you're going through, if you can control that one thing, right, then from there you can control the next thing. If you're low and you're at the bottom, your flame is low and your entire energy system is low, right? But if you can control that and psych yourself up to be as strong internally as you can, then the next step will come.
For you,
And
Dean?
that's how I never give
Yeah.
up.
Never give up.
Can I just have the question again, please?
Sorry.
What is that driving force? What's the driving force that keeps you going? What is it that sustains you?
Okay, so that's interesting, because there's the keep you going stuff in the sense of your responsibilities, right? And like, I have certain responsibilities to people, and I have to meet those. And by my own hand, I've committed to those responsibilities, and I want to meet them. So, regardless of what I'm going through, I will do my best to meet those responsibilities, so I can function when I'm in a low state. If it's for purely selfish reasons, why do I keep going for myself? Well, once I have experienced the depths of whatever I'm going through, and I understand this is my limit, this is where the bottom is, and I can now move forward, because there's a little bit of anxiety I have in terms of, I'm uncertain as to how bad this gets, so then I don't want to move forward, because if I try to move forward and I misjudge things and then I end up sinking further, that's going to be terrible. So I'd rather just identify where the bottom is, and when I have that sense of safety, then I'll move forward. Right? When I'm gotten to that state where I've understood where the bottom is and I'm now moving forward, there is a sense of wanting more from life, wanting, more for myself, that sort of wakes up again. And maybe that's the flame Good is talking about. And at that point, there's more optimism, there's more joy in what I do. There's a bit more variety in terms of my activities and things like that, naturally sort of come about. And then I tend to want more from life. And then, like, the biggest driving force, is on a personal level, just trying to find my person and start, my adventure with her. And, like, no matter how low the rock bottom is, I keep thinking to myself, well, there's somebody waiting for me. You can't stay here forever. Fine, feel out whatever you need to feel out and understand what you need to understand, but don't wait too long.
I'd agree with both of you. Like that inner driving force, that inner source of energy, that your true self coming to the fore now, as that driving force, because it has to be you. It can't be anyone else. And yet your true self, like Guj is alluding to as well, your absolute true self now comes out at your lowest point. And it sustains you, and I would agree with that. And I also agree with Dean, because there are some people who might not be in tune with themselves at that stage, but they need, like Dean says, his sense of responsibilities, his family. He has to live for his family. He has to get through things for his family because he has to support them, as an example. You have those responsibilities. And then, like he says, the selfish reasons as well. To meet certain things in his life, to meet certain people in his life as well. So I 100% agree with that. So I love that it's two.
Just add a little bit of clarity to that last point. And meeting to find my person is not necessarily just for her. I'm being selfish there. It's because I know that there's certain things that I want to experience from life, and I'm choosing to want those experiences with the person. So there, I can absolutely go and do things, by myself. I can go travel. I can go and experience whatever I need to experience by myself. But certain experiences I want to share, and that is where that comes from.
Yeah, I'd agree.
That thing that you just said now, it's so hard to explain it to people. Like, as much as I could do things like, as an example, like you said, travel and stuff and go and experience stuff, I never really wanted to unless I was doing it with someone. I don't know.
It's hard to explain, but when you know, you know.
Yeah.
I was just thinking back to some things that I was doing a lot. Anyway, I'll tell you after this. I think it's a combination. Yeah, I think it's a combination of what both of you said, from my personal experience as well. And then there's something else that I want to add. I'm pretty sure everyone has heard this line, that I always think that everything is not the end. And there's that line that says, everything will be okay in the end, and if it's not okay, this is not the end. So that's one of the things that I heard a long time ago, and that's also, there's just that motivation that knows that this can't be the end for me. It just cannot. This life doesn't stop here, and it has to keep going forward. And there's just all these reminders that I have to say, okay, there's more to it than just this. It doesn't stop here. Let's keep going. That sort of thing. And I know, this is also like a chance for like a clean slate protocol, to rebuild from the ground up again. And it's in a way that you want now this time. The way you want to see yourself, the way you want to represent yourself now to the world as well. It's a great opportunity to do that. So, what are then some of the components that you think people should focus on if they're rebuilding themselves, like, from the scratch, from the ground up again, from their lowest point? And yes, I think we all understand that each person's journey is different. What they need to build on is different. Certain components might not apply, but we can at least provide just like some upper level framework. So what do you think are like some of the key components, to move forward now out of this and build a new self?
Can I go first?
Go for it.
Yeah, I was asking if I can go first.
Oh,
Yeah, go for
okay.
it. Go for it, please.
First thing I would say is understand if the failure was something you even wanted to fail at. And what I mean by that is understand whatever it is you were trying to pursue. Is it something you genuinely wanted, or something that was placed upon you by your environment? Be it family, be it a loved one, whatever that is, right? Because if someone pushed you into doing something and then you became invested and then you failed at it, that's a whole different thing to try and deal with. So you got to understand what it is that you want, and the best way to do this is to take the ego out of it, and then see, okay, is this thing I'm pursuing, is it really going to improve my life, and in what way is it going to improve my life, and and we discussed this in the previous podcast, am I in alignment with what I'm pursuing? Because when you are not in alignment with what you are pursuing, it's possible to succeed, but it's a lot harder, right? And the failures tend to hit you a lot harder. But when you are in alignment with what you are pursuing, you tend to find extra gears like you would never believe. And the success tends to happen. And when you fail at the things you're pursuing, but you're in alignment with it, it doesn't feel like a failure. It feels like an attempt that was missed, and then you plow right back into it. So the energy is not really necessarily lost. Sure, you got a little bit knocked, and then you have to maybe just learn a few things and make a few adjustments. But the mindset is completely different. So I would say just understand what it is that you're chasing or moving towards, and where it comes from and what purpose it serves. And if you establish it for the correct reasons and you're in alignment, then A for away, and peace and love go with God.
I love that. Prash,
Yeah.
what's your take?
I understood the question a little bit differently. Because I
Yeah.
think you were talking about clean slate protocol, right? And I'm one of the people that love doing that.
Yeah.
I like starting over, reinventing myself, deciding the things that I like. But I've done it a few times, and every single time, like the first two times, I realized that there's something underlying that needs to be there. And I think Dean said something so important. He said, "Did you need to fail at something and then realize that you either decided to choose it or someone else chose it for you, right?" And a part of me that learned something about myself when I was doing this, like you said, clean slate protocol is you need to have and understand what your values are as a person. And when you have those values in place, right, and you have to understand that whatever values that you have in place are, they mirror you. They are like, it's part of the sense of you're right and you're wrong, right? So honesty, for example, is one of them, or um, patience is another, for example, right? And those things about yourself will never change, right? You can change, you can work on them to improve the ones that you see as you're struggling with, but the ones that you have that are strong are never going to get weaker. It's like a core part of your being, right? And when we talk about clean slate protocol, it's about deciding on what you want to do with yourself going forward, right? And whatever you are is a culmination of all the experiences that you've had before you, but also a culmination of all the things that you've done. And that's where in my mind, Dean's whole point of, did you choose this or did someone choose it for you? And if they chose it for you, does it align with your values? And if it doesn't, then you need to understand that all the things that you are doing weren't in alignment with your values. And that's why when you failed at it, right, you should learn that you can move on from it easily. Whereas if it's something you chose and it was in alignment with you and you failed at it, then like he says, you'll just pick up and start going again, like lightning, you know. And that's how I sort of like you said, what's the first thing you do? I think the first thing for me is look at what your values are and try to understand what resonates with you. And that's where you can start building on top of the basic blocks.
Yep.
I mean, that comes also from a deep introspection as well on self
Yeah.
initially, because
Very true.
what you want to build from, you'd need to determine that. I mean,
Yeah.
100% you determine the path to go from here, because you now get to decide again
Exactly. Yeah.
what you'd want next. Yeah, so it comes from a deep introspection as well. I think in one of our early podcasts, Dean mentioned really just getting down to your core, asking the hard questions of yourself.
Mm.
And don't be scared of the answers you get when you ask yourself the questions. I think that's what Dean mentioned really early on in one of the podcasts. So, like, I mean, are there any pitfalls and falsehoods of this healing journey to watch out for? I'll give you an example in my most recent thing. I mean, you all know the story there. And I think some of the things is that on some days and you'll feel really awesome, and then others you wake up really depressed. And while I know it's it's up and down, in my case I know I have to appreciate all the different feelings as they come. Like there's that false sense of security there, and the pitfall for me was thinking that everything is now okay, but then I had that one day where it was pretty bad, and it caught me off guard, as an example. So that was the pitfall for me, thinking that everything was okay for a while. Can you think of any other pitfalls or falsehoods to this new journey of a person?
You want me to go?
Yep, please.
So yeah, the false dawn is how I think of it.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
That's definitely one. That's a big one. But for me, wanting to move too quickly, and it's not the same as what Yash was talking about. It's because I mean Yash is you feel like you're there. And then, you know, you're not actually out the woods. You just made it into a small clearing. Whereas the being impatient with yourself is a pitfall for me. It's like not taking the time to recover from whatever damage you took, and then not taking enough time to assess how to move forward. The worst thing you can do is rush into something new when you've not recovered, because that's going to be damaging for all parties concerned.
100%.
So for me, pitfall there is not having the required patience to recover.
That's a good one, actually, as well. Like trying to speed up the journey, even like I think there was that one sermon I was really watching, and this preacher, he says there was a treadmill and it was on like speed 1, and when you try to run on speed 1 on the treadmill, you can't. Right? Like there's no way you can run on speed 1, and he says that's the pace that you need to go at that time, because that's the pace it needs to be, and as your journey goes, you'll get better and better, and then the speed picks up, and then you eventually at a pace of normality again. But you cannot rush the process, so you trying to force and run on the treadmill at speed 1 is not going to work. So that's the analogy he used in that sermon.
Yeah.
I definitely think that both the things that you guys have added in terms of learning, it's sort of a lesson to learn that while you're on the road to positivity, pitfalls like bad things can happen, like a bad day can happen, right? So that's definitely one. The other one, like Dean says, is taking time, which is super important. The only thing I could actually add to those two is learning to forgive yourself, right? But also remember that sometimes things that happen to you, like these pitfalls and these low troughs and stuff that happen, sometimes it happens from outside. Like there's an external force, someone does something bad to you, and then it's and yes, in some cases you just can't forgive those people, right? Say someone physically
Yeah.
hurt you or whatever it is, but learning to forgive yourself um, through all of this is, I think, one of the things that you have to add on top of what you guys have said, because after going through those things and giving yourself time and because those are the initial things, you have to give yourself the time and you have to understand that bad days are going to come, right? But after that you have to learn how to forgive, because if you don't, then giving yourself all that time is not going to make a difference. And um, when the bad day comes, you need to learn how to forgive, pick up, and move on. And I think that's probably the only thing I could add to what you guys said,
I
from
think I
turning it
really like the
around, forgiving.
forgiveness.
Yeah,
I
I
really
love
like
that.
the forgiveness thing. I think my therapist once said to me that forgiveness is not for the other person; it's for yourself.
Yes, yeah.
It's to
True. Very true.
it's such that you say to yourself that this feeling and whatever you're holding on to doesn't serve you anymore. So you need to forgive for you, not for the other person or anyone else or anything else. Yeah, so I really like that you mentioned that. Do you think there's like a length of time to know when it's time to like this is gonna be funny to release your bankai, your zanka no tachi bankai to kind of go out there in the world again.
Full tilt boss level.
Yeah, release your nine tails form or whatever. You know.
I know what you're asking, but I personally think the answer is no.
I
Yeah.
disagree with that, but carry on.
Yeah, not to know when to release your bankai, but how long a period of time. Because depending on what's happened to you, the recovery time or the time, like you said, to come out of
Will
what
vary.
you've been in can vary. And it's uh, when the time is there, then you definitely know, and then you can release your bankai or whatever. But knowing how long it's going to take you to get out of something, I think personally, it's too difficult.
Yeah,
Yeah,
everyone's
I
healing journey
agree.
is different, right? I mean, I'm not asking for
Yeah.
like, let's just say you have a loss or you lose your job or something like that, and like 7 days later, right, I'm back. No, I'm not really asking that. I think it's also like the secondary question to that is like, how do you know you're ready as well?
So the point, I mean, if we go along the Bankai analogy, that is a very specific upgrade that has a very specific purpose, right? It is meant to defend or to attack or whatever it is, but there's a foe in front of you that you summon that Bankai to overcome that foe. And whatever it is that you're going through right now, that's the training that you are going through in order to get your Bankai. That level up, that step up, that full tilt power form, right? And once you have gone through that training and you have attained your Bankai, you'll feel a different way. Like when you make it through this dip and you're on the other side and you can breathe fresh air and there's light and hitting your face and all that kind of stuff, whatever that metaphor is, you'll feel different. You'll know you're out the woods, and you'll know you're also stronger for it, right? And the point of going through that dip was to teach you something, was to help you grow, because life doesn't put you in shitty situations for no reason, right? It's if you really look back and you really introspect at all the cuck you've been through, everything has taught you something. It has made you stronger, and the purpose of those things has equipped you for whatever was coming. So when that situation that requires your Bankai arrives, you will be able to deliver, because you went through this dark night of pain and misery and suffering and all that other stuff, and you made it out and you are stronger for it. So when the situation arises that requires a stronger version of you, that stronger version will be present and ready.
Yeah, that's true.
I agree with that.
I mean, you build up to that release of magic internal energy. I think one of the also one of the things that you can do during this time is like also kind of figure out what your superpower is again. and kind of share that with the world. Because it's a chance to always, like we talked about, rebuild from the ground up, clean state protocol. But maybe you didn't know what your superpowers were.
Excuse me.
I don't know what my
And it's a
superpower is.
chance. Yeah, I
Feel
mean,
my friend.
like it'd be a great chance because you're going through the rebuilding phase again. Great chance to kind of figure out what your ikigai is, as an example, what you
Yeah.
have to offer to the world,
Mm.
as an example. I think pretty much that's what I had. But I'd like to also just quickly, because Dean mentioned some really cool things, right? And Guj as well.
Mm.
But I'd like to just share something from my diary. I'm just going to read you all an excerpt from my diary.
Yeah, go for it.
So, as I let go of the path that had just seemed an impossibility to occur, I remember that my future is brighter because of it, and I will grow stronger because of it. This life has many hurdles, and at each hurdle, whilst might seem incredibly difficult, and I will fall at times, I make a promise to me to keep on going. So that's just one of the excerpts from that diary on that day.
That's
And
very nice.
the last line of that is, I will never be that version of me again that let that happen.
Mm,
Growth. Oh, okay.
that is
Yeah.
good. At least you keep a diary, but I would struggle to do that.
I mean, there's a lot of different things that one can try, right? I mean,
Mm.
you all know I digitize. I have a digital diary and all that jazz.
Mm.
But it's nice to just write down thoughts as they occur,
Mm.
and you can go back to them at any given time, and during periods of your life, and see, okay, what happened on this day a few years ago, and look how far I've come as a reminder as well. Like I know we talked about when we go through our troughs, but because of this diary that I've built up now for a very long time, I can always go back and see, wow, this is what I've done, this is what I've overcome, and
Mm.
because of the past of what I've overcome, I know I can overcome what's current, Um, so for me, it helps in that way.
I like that what you said there was I you said something about learning from the mistakes that you made, and I think that is something that I always try to do. No matter what situation I'm in, I try to learn from and absorb from that situation all the lessons that are there. And I think that's probably one of the best things you can do. Whether it's a good situation or a bad situation, there is always something to learn from whatever you're going through. And if you keep your mind open to learning, you'll find that a lot of the time, things like ego and the damage that you invariably receive from those situations is lessened.
Yeah.
That's true, right? Like we always talk with there's those popular sayings, and we kind of always talk about there's blessings and lessons in life. Sometimes you'll be blessed, sometimes you'll fall to learn a lesson, like you just said. And you'll the silver lining
It's
is
a blessing or a lesson. One of the two.
yeah.
Mm.
And you always kind of need to look out for that, right? Hardships are never there to hurt you. They're there to get you to your next level. So pain to power, as a catchphrase. Hopefully it catches on.
Pain to power.
I like that.
I mean, you can decide what it is, right? Am I going to continuously stay in the pain, or am I going to move to my power? And the choice is yours at the end of the day. But more than likely, you will choose to move towards your power. Well, in most cases. Well, that is all I had for this evening. Any final words of encouragement or advices that you'd like to give?
Not from my side. Good.
Recently, I keep seeing things about where they ask old people on the street, what have you learned over your years? And I don't know whether my skull is just very thick or it just takes time to learn the things that they're saying. But the more I hear it, the more I resonate with it now than I would have 10 years.
You have to be ready
things-
to learn certain things.
True, 100%. But I mean, I wasn't so stupid back then that I didn't understand what it meant to, when the old people say, just do the things that make you happy, right? And be with the people that make you happy. And it never sunk in until the more I hear it, the more I'm like, I knew this and I heard this before, but why did I never practice it? Right? And
I think there's a
when you
difference between understanding something and appreciating it.
Sure, definitely, right? But the thing is that to this situation, right? It's a really good starting place. Now that I think about it, because if you're in a bad situation, go back to grassroots, simple things that work. Spend time doing the things that make you happy, right? As long as they aren't hurting someone else, obviously. But and then spend time with the people that make you happy, as long as they aren't hurting you.
Yeah.
I preface that the you aren't hurting people and they aren't hurting you because nowadays people find pleasure in terrible things.
Pain
But
of others.
yeah,
Yeah.
but and that's why I preface it because normally I wouldn't. But that
I'm glad you
is,
said that.
but that there is also another way of starting the process of coming back.
It's also true. I mean, remember we, in some of the podcasts of previous times, we asked about how to recover your energy. And you specifically, you both mentioned do things that you love doing, on a continuous basis until you get to a point of levity again, of stability as well. Because doing things what you love gets you to a happy space.
Definitely.
Like you wouldn't love doing them if it didn't make you happy. It didn't make you content. It didn't make you feel wanted, loved, or appreciated, or anything like that. So yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Because that wanted, loved, and appreciated is what's going to help you get out of where you are.
True.
I think we didn't mention the those sorts of emotions as well. Being around people who make you feel that.
That's
The
why in all
good
the movies, when
presence
something goes wrong,
of people in your
when
life.
something goes wrong, that person goes home and they go and stay by their parents.
Mentioning something going wrong. I know Les Brown has a saying: when something goes wrong, don't go with it.
That's true.
Oh man, I love that.
That's a good one.
I love that.
Yeah, you shouldn't go with it, But 100% good. You gravitate toward the people that care for you, that are going to provide that support and attention to you. I think we didn't touch on it, but that's a major factor as well. Your support structure. What do you have in place? Who do you have in place as well? And who you surround yourself with, good or bad, is who you become as well, because they have impacts on your life. But during those low times, who do you go to?
Definitely.
So find that friendship balance, or that loved one balance, or a family balance, that when you do have a period like this, you lean on them, and you can lean on them. And it's not a, I know some people, there's like a stigma around being open about these things and saying, hey, I need the help. I know we've talked on this as well in the previous podcast where we say we shouldn't kind of feel that stigma. Asking for help is a show of strength, not a show of weakness.
You know that people struggle with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they feel they're a burden on people. I know in the past, I never spoke about my issues because I always thought I was burdening others with problems, right? But that's a generic response of perhaps most guys, because we feel that. We feel like we should be capable enough to handle everything on our own, magically.
Somehow.
But yeah, without gaining the skills for it. But yeah, leaning on people is a strength, and asking for help is a strength, in my opinion. So
Definitely.
who you surround yourself with during those times is a great show of strength. And I know we touched on this as well in one of the previous podcasts about substance abuse and turning in the wrong direction, because those are destructive habits that you can still build during this period. So destructive habits. What's your habits? What sort of habits do you build during this time? Is it destructive or is it positive? And you can turn, like, during some of these low periods, people turn to the bottle, or some vice, some sort of destructive vice. But if you have a strong support structure, a mindset that can help you move forward, you won't spiral into that destructive zones.
That strong support structure is very important.
So there's not a lot of people who do have strong support structures. So one of the things that I wanted to do over the next few months, I don't know if you'll know about this, but there is an online platform where you can register yourself for people to talk to, because not a lot of people have people to talk to.
Like a
I was going to
helpline.
register, not a helpline, just someone to listen, because I'm not qualified to help anyone, but what I am qualified to do is just listen to someone
So like a listen line.
and just
I like that.
just be there, for someone to talk to.
Yeah.
So there's this online platform that you can register, and you, like,
What's it
people who
called?
want to just talk can talk. I can't remember the actual
share
name
it.
of it right now, but I'll share it on our Instagram and TikTok, and I'll share a link to the
Okay.
platform on the podcast as well. But it's one of the things that I wanted to register for over the next few months, and it's flexible. You can select which time zone you want to listen to people. You can listen for half an hour, 1 hour, whatever. You choose the time, but it's just a place where you can give your time to others, to just so they can release it. I mean, like I mentioned, not a lot of people are like us.
It's a beautiful idea.
Yeah, not a lot of people who are like us, who are privileged and blessed enough to have each other. There are people who are struggling in this world, and they just need someone to listen. That is all. And
But
so
is it a
one of the
video
things that I
call
wanted
thing?
to do. You can select what type you want. You can
Okay.
select video, you can select chat, or you can select just a phone call, or
Okay.
Skype, or whatever, or Teams, or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, that's just one of the
Interesting.
other things that I wanted to do. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be keen to do that.
Well, yeah, who knows? Maybe one of our listeners will call in, and I'll be on the other line, and yeah, I'll just listen. Hopefully that
Yeah,
can
we'll
help
be
someone.
listening to them this time.
Well, on that note of helping others and relating to others, any last thoughts, comments?
I can't think of anything
Go
else.
with
I
love and
think.
light.
Okay. Well, once again, thank you both for joining this evening, and thank you for your wonderful comments and responses. This perhaps can help so many people out there listening in. And once again, listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. We love you. We appreciate you. We hope you have an awesome remainder of the week, wherever you are in the world. And we hope you, whatever you're going through, you recover from it. This is us, the Three Wise Potatoes, signing off for this evening. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.